So if you're a home bartender and you're wondering how you can learn and memorize so many different types of cocktail recipes, then this is the correct video for you. My name is Ron Vierpin. I'm a full-time medical doctor, and I've been a home bartender for over 5 years now. During that time, I've learned how to make over 100 different cocktails, and I've thrown over 50 cocktail parties, and I teach other busy professionals how to make cocktails at home. And if you're looking to learn different types of cocktail recipes, the best way to do that is actually to group cocktails into different families, learn the templates for those families, and then apply them to different cocktails. And in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to do that for the Martini Manhattan family of cocktails, specifically those two cocktails. And in a previous video, I also did something similar to this for the sour family of cocktails, which as a home bartender will be the biggest family of cocktails that you learn. And in that video, I show you how you can take the simple sour template and apply that to learn 5 different cocktail recipes. And I think that's the first place you should start, because I believe that all home bartenders should start with sour cocktails. So that video will be linked in the description below. Once you're ready to move on from sours, then another important category of cocktails that you should learn is the Manhattan Martini family. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that these are classic cocktails. These recipes are all from the early 1900s, possibly even the late 1800s in some of their cases. And even in the year 2025, these drinks are quite popular. If I asked you guys to name 10 different cocktails, almost all of you would say the Martini. And if I asked you guys to name 15 to 20 different cocktails, probably most of you would say the Manhattan as well. They're just that popular and that well known. And I think they're essential cocktails to learn in the first 3 to 6 months as a home bartender. And instead of just going out and simply memorizing the recipe, it's better to understand the template and the formula for drinks that are in this category, the Martini Manhattan category. And drinks that are in this category, cocktails that are in this category, they all contain 3 main components. So the first component is going to be a liquor. The second component is going to be a vermouth, which is an Italian fortified aromatized wine. And then the third ingredient will be a bitter. So that can either be bitters, as in bitters bottles, like aromatic Angostura bitters or orange bitters or any other type of bitters like that. Or it can be like the bottle of Campari that I have back here, which is an Amaro, an Italian bitter liqueur. So it can be a straight up liqueur, or it can be straight up bitters. So either one. And the Martini and the Manhattan actually use bitters specifically in the dashes. So I believe those are the first ones that you should learn. And they both follow the same template. And for me, that template is very easy to remember. The mnemonic that I use is 212. For me, that's very easy to remember because 212 is actually my birthday, February 12th. And I'll give you guys another way you can remember 212. So 212 is also the cell phone or telephone area code for New York City, and specifically for the borough Manhattan. And in this video, we're talking about the drink that is also called Manhattan. So therefore, it's only fitting that you use the cell phone area code for Manhattan as a mnemonic for the drink Manhattan. And what does 212 mean? 212 means 2 ounces of liquor, 1 ounce of vermouth, and then 2 dashes of bitters. So in the case of the Manhattan, that is going to be 2 ounces of whiskey, which can be the rye whiskey like I have here, or it can be bourbon. Then it's going to be 1 ounce of sweet vermouth, and then finally 2 dashes of Angostura aromatic bitters. Then we go over to the Martini. So you just swap out these ingredients, and then you have a completely new cocktail. You swap out the whiskey for gin or vodka, you swap out the sweet vermouth for dry vermouth, and then you swap out the Angostura bitters for orange bitters. And that's how you go from the Manhattan to the Martini. So the Martini is going to be 212, 2 ounces of either gin like I have here, or vodka, and then 1 ounce of dry vermouth instead of sweet vermouth like with the Manhattan, and then finally 2 dashes of orange bitters instead of the Angostura bitters like you have with the Manhattan. So that's how you get from one cocktail to the next. So using that same template, you guys can then apply that to learn 2 main different types of cocktails, which are the Manhattan and the Martini. 2 of the most important cocktails that you should learn, especially as a beginner home bartender. Like I mentioned, you should really learn these cocktails probably somewhere in the first 3 to 6 months as a beginner home bartender. In my opinion, they're actually 2 of the first 10 cocktails that you should learn. They're just that important because they're so fundamental to really understanding classic cocktails and then building from there on different templates and recipes. There are a number of other drinks that are in the Manhattan Martini family. The most famous other one is the Negroni, but the Negroni, instead of using bitters, it uses a bitter liqueur, which in this case is Campari, but it also uses gin, just like the Martini, and it uses sweet vermouth, just like the Manhattan. So it still follows that same process of using those same three ingredients: liquor, vermouth, and bitter component. But because you're using a liqueur instead of bitters, you're not going to be using straight up dashes. You're actually going to be using a measurement quantity, which in this case is 1 ounce. So the Negroni is also an easy template to learn. I'll give that as a bonus for this video. The template for that is just going to be simple 1-1-1. 1 ounce gin, 1 ounce sweet vermouth, 1 ounce of Campari, which is your Italian bitter liqueur, your Amaro. So it's not the exact same as the 2-1-2, but it follows 1-1-1. But it does still contain the same three components as the Manhattan and as the Martini. So therefore, it's in the same family. Template is slightly different because you're using a liqueur instead of bitters from a dasher bottle. But that's also an important cocktail to learn. It was actually the very first cocktail that I made, and I'm not sure if it should be the first cocktail that you make, but I think it should be a cocktail that you learn in your first 6 months as a beginner home bartender. Because like the Manhattan and the Martini and those sour cocktails that I talked about in the previous video, it is fundamental to really understanding the template and the different families of cocktails that come after that. So just to summarize what we talked about in this video, use the template 2-1-2 to understand the recipes and the ratios for ingredients in the Manhattan and the Martini. And just as a bonus, for a drink that's in the same family, use the template of 1-1-1 for the Negroni. So the exact recipes that we talked about in this video: a Manhattan is going to call for 2 ounces of whiskey, 1 ounce sweet vermouth, 2 dashes of Angostura bitters. A Martini is going to call for 2 ounces of either gin or vodka, 1 ounce of dry vermouth, and then 2 dashes of orange bitters. And then as a bonus for this video, I also included the Negroni, which is going to call for 1 ounce of gin, 1 ounce of sweet vermouth, and then 1 ounce of Campari. So using these basic templates, you really learn how to make 3 classic cocktails without having to go too far and too deep on memorizing. You focus instead on the fundamentals and the ratios, and that's how you learn how to make these classic cocktails. Anyways, if you found that video helpful, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel below. I really like to do 2 types of videos on this channel. One will be like this video where I give specific tips and tricks and advice and stories from my own home bartending journey that I hope will help you guys become better home bartenders. And the other style of video will be where I do tutorials on how to make specific cocktails. That's all I have for today's video. Thank you. Cheers.